Hello, I'm Paul, the geriatric gardener. Today I'm going to talk about bulbs, spring bulbs. Now, as you know, or if you've been watching from the beginning of my series, I inherited here 2 patches of grass and I didn't really expect to see any bulbs springing up in spring. I was quite right, there weren't any. What there were some bulbs that I bought with me in pots. After they'd gone brown, I lifted them, kept them in the garage. There were daffodils, which you saw Ben planting in my programme Going Wild a couple of weeks ago. They're out in the back garden, so that crate's empty. We've got some small ones, which are predominantly crocuses and grape hyacinths, and they will go out into the beds shortly when the weather gets a bit better. I've had to move indoors because the weather's so foul today. And finally, tulips. Now it's too early to plant tulips. It's better to plant tulips in late November because they don't get going until after the daffodils. So what have I bought to enjoy next spring? First of all, and I should say before I go any further, that all the products I mentioned are available for you to order simply by going to my website, which is down here, www.garden-notebook.club. And I'll remind you of that address at the end of the programme. So this was a bargain on Amazon, 101 bulbs for $14.99. There are 7 tulips, 4 daffodils, 25 grape hyacinths, 12, I can't read it, 12 ixio, whatever they are, 18 iris and 35 allium molly. So by and large they'll all go in pots, as will these which I bought from Aldi. We've got 15 mini daffodils, 12 tulips tardy, interesting tulips those, and finally 25 scilla. These small bulbs produce wonderful little white flowers very early on in spring. The first winter after we moved to live in North Yorkshire, a bunch of snowdrops came up under a hedge, and I thought those looked rather large for snowdrops. It turned out they weren't snowdrops at all, but snowflakes, and I've loved them ever since. One of my favourite bulbs. They're so easy to split up and plant elsewhere. In fact, by the time we left 10 years later, we had these giant snowdrops growing all around the garden, an absolute delight. And we shall certainly be having some here in our new garden. So before we go any further, the first pot to plant is what I call, or what everybody else these days is calling, a Tulip Lasagna. We'll start with a mixture of compost, and by the way, this compost comes from Amazon as well, and whether you're a Prime member or not, it's totally free delivery. So that saves an awful lot of humping. It saves humping it into your trolley in the shop, moving it out to your car, humping it into the car and humping it out of the car when you get home. Absolute bargain. Once again, on my website. So I take multi-purpose compost and add grit to it to improve the draining. Bulbs do not like sitting in water. The mixture is about 4:1 compost to grit. First I'm going to put the daffodils in because they're going to be the longest. On layer 1, and then we'll put a layer of compost, and we want to make certain that the points of those bulbs stick out of the compost so we can see where they are, and we don't put the next layer straight on top of them. There we are. So those tops are all visible. So I'll now come in with 5 tulips from this bumper bundle of bulbs. Bright red Van Eyck tulips, those. Cover those. I don't know if you know the story of bulbs or tulips when they were first found in the mountains of eastern Turkey. Some Dutchman, he was probably called Van Eyck, came back with a bulb or two, and in no time at all the value, or the cost if you like, of one tulip bulb was equal to the cost of a house. A bit like the South Sea bubble. And then it's time for the scilla to go in now. And then of course the bubble burst. And the Dutch found themselves with some lovely gardens, but no houses. So that's why they all live in flats today. Good story and mostly true. So these are just the small scilla that are going to come out first on top. And they're pretty much at random. They're white. Okay, that's it. Just a final covering of compost. And we'll give them a bit of a drizzle of water before putting them in the garage for the winter. As soon as they start to show, bring them out into the... Well, that's about it for now, but join me next time when I'll be talking about sowing seeds for next year's annuals and perennial flowers. Cheers!